Hey Wargamers, welcome back to the channel, Death from Above Wargaming. I'm Aaron and I am back with perhaps the last Battlytics of 2023. It's hard to believe. Hard to believe we are at the end of the year. So I wanted to go out with a bang, specifically a hyper assault bang. It's a little hint for you. We're going to take a look at the Bane tonight, also known as the Kraken, which I can't help but say in a bad Scottish accent every time I hear it. This one is actually the Bane 7, which is from the recognition guides. It is an ilClan era design, and it does, in fact, pack a pair of Hag 40s, Hyper Assault Gauss Rifle 40s. I always like to joke that when you're rolling for clusters with two Hag 40s, you can tell your opponent to go take a lunch break because it just takes forever. Even though they're in groups of 5, it's ridiculous. It's so many clusters. All right, so let's talk about the Bane. 100 tons. This thing was produced in 3122, but the original Bane dates like all the way back to like the 2500s. It maybe even earlier. It was based on an old Star League prototype. It was a mainstay in Clan Force Tumans up to the point that the Omni Mech was introduced, and then this thing got relegated to second line status, such as life. But still, hundreds of years later, this thing is still kicking, and still kicking ass, as it were. So let's take a look at the stats on this thing. The battle value is an eye-watering 3740. I thought the Stone Rhino was expensive. Then I saw this guy, absolutely astronomically expensive. It has a movement profile of 3.5, so very slow, but not too slow. It has 14 double heat sinks, an XL fusion engine. It has endo composite structure. That's right, folks. This is new. Actually, I had to make some tweaks to the code in Battlytics to make sure we appropriately accounted for that delicious endo composite structure. It has standard armor, and of which it's got basically full coverage. 304 freaking pips. That's insane. 19 tons, 99% coverage. Excitingly, this has no lower or hand actuators, so you can arm flip with the Hyper Assault Gauss rifles. So you basically have 360-degree arc of fire with those. It has significant amounts of ammo, about 18 rounds for each rifle, although there's 2 tons in the left torso, 1 ton in the right torso. Of course, that ammo is inert. And then we've got a Clan Large Pulse Laser, my favorite weapon of all time, in the right torso, and 4 Clan ER Medium Lasers, which is also arguably one of the best weapons in the game, in my opinion. Fantastic range, great heat to damage ratio. Those are also located in the right torso. So this thing is designed to kill. Really excited to run this one through the ringer here, but will that battle value be so prohibitively high that it won't even make sense to field it? I don't know. We're going to find out, though. So, guys, stay tuned. Battlytics on the Bane 7 coming right up. My favorite mechs are always the ones where I have to like adjust the stock animation charts and I have to change the scaling because the numbers they don't fit. It just does too much damage. This thing is ridiculous. So first of all, take a look at the heat profile. Once the ER mediums come into range, it can build up an absurd amount of heat. 19 points of heat once you get into that 15 hex, 15-inch range mark. So you have to be very, very careful on the heat. But even still, with the red line, meaning you're holding the trigger down, basically pressing all the buttons, but not shutting down. So just making sure you just ride that red line. You still do 208.6 points of damage. That's crazy. That's more than like most inner sphere assault mechs do at optimal efficiency. The baseline for this thing, so if you're just a conservative old chap and you just kind of march down the field and don't build up any more than 4 points of heat, you dish out 500 515 points of damage. Optimized, you can build up 531. It's a 3% gain. That is bananas, if I do say so myself. That is absolutely insane. That's over 12 turns. That's like, I can't even do that math. It's like, what, 40 points of damage or something a turn? It's something absurd. That's really crazy. 531 points of damage. You could literally hit every single pip on another Bane and still have like 200 points left over to kill something else. I mean, it's nuts. It really is nuts. All right, let's talk about the lethality of this particular design. So it killed the Javelin in 4.94 turns. I don't know that that's a record, but it's pretty darn high. But check this out. Not only does it deliver crap loads of damage, it also delivers a significant number of critical hits. So 4.76. The average damage per hit, remember, that's taking into account all of the clusters, which there are a gajillion of. 4.57. And again, we talked about that time to kill. This is absolutely ripping the Javelin apart. It's running into a flak field of death, which is pretty impressive, if I do say so myself. Now, let's take a look at the defensive side, but let's oogle one more time over the 515 points of damage. That is absolutely magnanimous. All right, so defensively, let's take a look. It's pretty great. Literally everything is covered. There's a little bit on I believe the CT is slightly under by like a couple of pips. And the rear torso looks pretty good as well. But otherwise, I mean, almost everything is completely and utterly maxed out. Legs are maxed out. Side torsos, I think everything's maxed out. There might be, again, a couple pips on the CT under when you add the front and the rear. Regardless, from a critical hit perspective, on the mobility side, right? So this thing barely sees a motive hit. It's slow as turds, but the good news is it's not going to get any slower. It has just so much leg armor, you just can't get through it. It does have roll agains in the leg slots. There's nothing packing out those roll again slots. So if you do get through the leg armor, you've spent a lot of effort to do so, first and foremost. But secondly, chances are you are going to get a motive hit. But that only happens, like 1 in 1,000 shots, basically, is what the simulator is telling me. And that's over, again, 10,000 games of BattleTech that this is calculated, or 10,000 simulations, I should say. So survivability overall is very, very good on this mech, 95.4%. And those 4% deaths are only coming basically from just totally coring out the mech or getting that lucky head kill, which is probably going to happen sooner than it is to actually chew through this thing, if I'm being honest. It is, again, it's a ton of actual kills. There is a small percentage, 0.6, that is related to engine deaths. Thank you, you trash dumpster fire XL engine. But in this case, it really doesn't make a huge difference. But if you do rip off the side torsos, or you rip off one side torso and you do get a lucky, throw armor crit or something, and you knock out, that third engine crit in the torso, it is what it is in the center torso, I should say. It is what it is. That happens, but it happens very, very infrequently. So overall, this thing is rock solid. It deals a crap load of damage. But again, 3740 battle value. And that's unmodified, guys. That is a 4 gunnery, 5 piloting mech. I mean, again, you start adding in a better gunner, a better pilot, this thing gets very expensive very quick. So will it make a difference? Will that battle value be a deal breaker? Let's turn the page and find out. All right, well, there it is. The numbers don't lie. Much like Shakira's hips. So it says 9.98. It's pretty darn good. So a couple of things I want to call your attention to. Number one, as some of you may know, as most of you should probably know if you've been paying attention, all of our benchmarks, all the simulations, they're done under the assumption that you have a Gunnery 2 unit, a pilot in the mech, right? So the battle value for a Gunnery 2 Bane 7 is 5,236 points. I am pretty sure, like, I've played games against Kevin where, we've done 30-25, like the old school ones, and they were like 5,200, 6,000 battle value. So next time, all I need to do is just pack one model and bring my Bane 7 because it's that expensive. But even though it's as expensive as like 4 average mechs, it still tops the charts at 9.98. It is well above the efficiency. It means you're getting basically more bang for your buck when it's that high. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Is the Hag 40 the most brokenest weapon in the game? I don't know. It might be. In conjunction with a large pulse laser and 4 ER mediums, it is pretty darn good. So you can see here, in terms of gunnery sensitivity, you're not going to get much for squeezing it beyond a 2. You get even marginal return on investment from going 4-3 and 3-2. You can see even at gunnery 3, the efficiency is 9.28, which is very, very good. I mean, heck, even in the 8s, it's fantastic. But I wouldn't put a gunnery 4 pilot in this thing because it's just too good. But again, it is just absolutely beastly. This may be one of the most lethal and most expensive mechs we've ever looked at. One of the things I do want to dig into, since we're here, is I want to look at the firing pattern on this mech for the optimized ACD, and I want to see what it's shooting the most. So over 12 turns, every single turn it's firing the Hag 40. Every single turn, at every range bracket. It's firing the large pulse laser as soon as it's in range, all the way through until basically you're like at point blank range, like sub 5 inches. And why it decides to make the switch to the ER mediums probably has to do with the fact that you're getting, better bang for buck with the heat, and you're at a close enough range. It's actually when you switch into the short range bracket for the ER medium lasers, so that's exactly what it is. But those Hag 40s, they are just, hold the button down, just tape the trigger down, and fire those things literally every single turn. It's pretty impressive. And it's got the ammo to do it, so why not? You can do that for 18 turns, 18 straight turns. You can just fire Hag 40s. This thing is brutal. When I get it painted, I am 100% going to play this and grief Dan. I know he doesn't watch the Battlytics videos, but I'm telling him right now. So if he doesn't watch it, it's his loss. Dan, I'm going to grief you with the Bane 7. It's going to happen. All right, let's talk about roles. Let's talk about how I would use this thing on the battlefield, and then we'll wrap this thing up. All right, so 3 roles come to mind. I did color code one slightly differently because I wanted to just sort of call it out a bit. Brawler, number 1. March this thing in, get it as close as you can, and just maul things as you go. The second one is Vanguard. Kind of the same concept. If you're in a city, if you're not in a city, just march this thing up the gut. It can take crap loads of fire, and it can deliver out subsequent and just awful retribution coming out of this thing. So that's great. Now, the other one I called out was Defender. I don't know. I'm interested to hear your guys' opinion on this one. I was on the fence, which is why I color-coded it kind of weird. But, to me, you can sit this thing on an objective. Like if you're playing a narrative mission, it's got to guard a base, or you're playing, one of our missions and it wants to protect an objective. Anything, capture the flag, any of these types of missions, you can just sit this thing in the back and just roast things. I mean, forget the ER mediums. They're backup weapons, right? They're very hot anyway. You're not going to really use all 4 of them anyway. So even just the Hag and the large pulse, right? Like you can get away with that. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think you build up any heat firing that. So you can just do that all day long, and you can deliver a ton of damage. You can build up basically no heat, if any heat at all. I think that's what I would do. I think that's an option. But leave in the comments. Tell me what you think. Is this thing too good to just sit on an objective and guard, or is it the kind of thing that, if it's swarmed, you feel like it's too vulnerable? Interested in your guys' opinions on that one. Tell me what you think about a defender role for the Bane 7 versus a more offensive-oriented role. But speaking of being offensive, this mech is very offensive. Offensive to me. I'm triggered. Look at I want to draw your attention to the light red bars that start to emerge as you get within 15 inches. So this is what we call the maximum ACD. So the dark red bars, which are the tallest ones, that's your alpha strike capability. This thing has an alpha strike capability of 118 points at 15 inches. That's if everything hits. The dice gods love you. All 80 of your hyper assault clusters hit. Like, it's never going to happen. It probably happened to somebody. Leave it in the comments. Tell me it happened. But if everything hits, it's 118 points of damage. Your peak, your basically your peak average calculated damage, which is the highest of your maximum, is at 5 inches. So 5 inches is where you're statistically most likely to do the most damage, and that's 84.3 points of damage. So again, closer is better. You can see once you're within 8 inches, once you get into that 5-inch range, like you're doing pretty good. And then it starts to dip off, right? You start to have some range issues, minimum range issues, and things along those lines. Actually, I don't even know. I assume Hyper Assault Gauss do have a minimum range. You guys would know this better than me. They do. It's 2. So that is why that damage starts to dip off once you get within 2 hexes, 2 inches. So, fun facts. I'm learning things about Hyper Assault Gauss. You're learning things about the Bane 7. It's a pretty impressive day, if I had to say so myself. But the other thing I would say, don't forget to arm flip and roast somebody right out your butt, because twin Hyper Assault 40s coming out the backside it's a joke for the ages. I don't know what else to say about this mech. I am amazed. I am amazed. The efficiency rating's amazing. The battle value is astronomical, but it's apparently worth it. Is it a walking fortress? Yes, is the answer. I want to hear it from you. Leave it in the comments. Would you ever field something this expensive? Would you be so bold as to, face down 4 Inner Sphere mechs in a single Bane? Or do you think that is absolutely suicide? I'm, again, very interested in your war stories with the Bane or other Bane variants that you have. There's one, I believe, that has like 37 LRM-15s on it that is also pretty terrifying. Or maybe they're 10s. I don't know. It's got a whole bunch of missiles on it, I think. I think that's the Bane. But again, leave it in the comments. You tell me. I'm done talking about this mech. I'm done gushing over it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I don't know what clan I'm going to paint it up in, but I will figure it out. Maybe I'll just make clan Kraken. Just going to make my own. Might happen. Just field all Krakens, all Banes against Dan primarily. Anyway, that said, 2 things. If you want to buy yourself a Bane, and you didn't get one in the Kickstarter, they will eventually be out. Aries Games and Minis, he will have them. He had all the Force packs from the last Kickstarter, so certainly get yourself one over there. But in the meantime, if you can't help yourself and you can't wait, you can also get yourself an Ironwind Metals Kraken. I believe there's one of those floating around out there still, and those are also over at Aries Games and Minis, so definitely check that out. Also, all kinds of great stuff, books, dice, the whole 9 yards. And don't forget to subscribe. Just hit the button. It's free. Costs you nothing. Click it if you haven't done it. Click it again. That would be fantastic. Leave a like. It's very easy. It's a little thumbs up button. Click it. It's free. I would appreciate it. And lastly, as we talked about, leave a comment. So many things I want to hear about. I mean, is this thing really that good? It's crazy. It's crazy to me how high the numbers are on this. So tell me about it. Tell me about your experiences with the Bane. And if you want to get more involved in the channel, you know what to do. You can head on over to Patreon. It's as little as $1 a month. Get you in on the action. We've got digital apps. We've got some cool downloads and mission packs. A lot of that stuff is free, but patrons usually do get a little bit of a sneak peek on all of that stuff. They also get some extra features and things along those lines. We have our veteran challenges where sometimes we give away prizes. We actually gave away a whole regiment tier in the Kickstarter, which was pretty cool. So lots of great stuff over there. Again, it's as little as $1 a month to get in on the action. It does help us keep things rolling here at the studio. And that said, guys, speaking of which, I'm all done. Got nothing left. I am blown away by this Bane. What a way to end the year. And speaking of which, I hope you all have wonderful holidays and a happy, happy, happy new year. I'm very excited to see what 2024 holds for BattleTech. So, guys, stay tuned. Always great stuff coming from Death from Above Wargaming. Have a good night.